possibly get, but we can't do it unless that funding stream is there. So what ways can you, as an economist and others who have the public arena, get that message across so that you can help to impact the public policy that will give us the funding so we can do the job that we really do well?
So a couple of things. First of all, I'm not an economist. I'm just a newspaper reporter. Secondly, to the extent that you want to blame us, blame the press for your problem, I plead not guilty. Although I'd say the Washington Post and Kaplan, they might haven't been in a position. I don't happen to work for them. I think that my colleagues at Bloomberg have done an excellent job at writing about how the for-profits, the weaknesses there. But let me go to your fundamental thing. I think that you're absolutely right. I was just pointing out that one downside of saying we're full is that you leave yourself an opening to say, well, then we'll let the for-profits fill the bill. That's perfect. And I think what you have to ask yourself is, are you serving the same people that the for-profits serve? And if not, which ones are you serving and which are they not serving? And is your track record better than theirs, and can you prove it to me? And I think that's the most important thing you can do. Look, one of my frustrations about the press is that we have for years undercovered community colleges. I think I've done my part as one reporter, and I think there's much more coverage of community colleges now than there was when I first got interested in this back in the mid-90s. But still, if you go to any local newspaper, you'd think that the vast majority of college students in those communities went to four-year schools, and you and I know that's not the case. So I think it's a steady process of celebrating your successes and calling those successes to the attention of the local press. And by that, I don't mean the 1 in a million, the paraplegic daughter of welfare recipients who came to your community colleges and now a Supreme Court justice, right? Those 1 in a million ones. I don't think those stories are very compelling. That's like writing about someone who's saving for retirement by hoping they'll win the lottery. What I'm talking about is the really ordinary people, the ones who really populate your parking lots at 5 o'clock, the ones who are working at an $8 an hour job and are coming to school at your establishment and are actually going to get a $17 an hour job. I think that those stories are really compelling. And to the extent that you show people, don't tell me all these things about how many paper clips you bought in your community and how many and stuff like that, but it's the extent that you show people your success stories, it's the best you can do. I think that when you are called to testify before Congress, you ought to have 1 fewer community college president, 2 fewer AAC executives, and 2 more successful community college graduates. I think you ought to identify the community college success stories in the district of every single member of the House and Senate Appropriations Committee. And the next time you're here, come with one of them. Sir.
David, thank you very much. I'm Jerry Cook from Johnson County Community College in Overland Park, Kansas. Right before this conference, CPAC was here with allegedly 11,000 registrants and about 75% young people. It appears that around the world, young people are becoming very involved in their respective political processes. What thoughts do you have about either our engagement or lack of engagement with the youth as it affects the political future of our world?
So that's a pretty big question. Look, you cannot help but be inspired by what's gone on in Egypt in the last 3 weeks. I mean, there were a whole bunch of young people, not all of them young, but many of them young, who basically did something that the rest of us thought was impossible. So what more do we need to know? The question is, how do we harness that? And how do we make sure that their efforts are properly funneled into the political process? I mean, I have a son who's a senior in college who is a young global warming climate change activist. And those kids have come up with a very effective approach to talking about why young people have a big stake in climate change. In his crowd, they did a stunt and they ran an 11-year-old as a write-in candidate for the governor of Vermont. And they, in my minivan, in the 4th of July parade in Warren, Vermont, they had this kid on the roof of the minivan with a big T-shirt that says, "I still want to be able to ski when I'm 40." So I think the question is, it goes a little bit to my answer to the first person. My guess is that the kids like my son who go to private colleges and have generous parents and don't have to go work on the weekends have lots of time to be political activists. And the people who go to community colleges are kind of too busy getting on with their lives to go out there and lobby for funding for Pell Grants or something like that. So I think that you should think about how to engage them. And we all learning how better to use Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. That's part of it. But some of it, I think, is just speaking the truth to these young people. Say, look, we need your help. In our community, we have a property tax levy coming up. And there are a lot of people who don't like paying taxes. Who does? But we need to show the people of our community, or we need to show the congressman from our district, that what's going on in the community college is really important, and it's really important to their constituency, to their constituents or their neighbors. And I don't know how many of you are using the young people in your institutions, but I would think that that's the only thing I can suggest. I mean, it does make you kind of optimistic when you meet the young people at community colleges or four-year schools when I get emails from college kids or high school kids who want to know stuff. I mean, I'm not depressed about the future of America. I really do believe that they're going to figure out how to do it. I just wish we weren't handing them such a big bucket of crap to deal with. Sir.
My name's Richard Tolbert. I'm a trustee from Kansas City, Missouri, and in my 8 years of being a trustee, yours is the best conference speech I've ever heard. but you open your remarks by commenting on the news this morning of the impending changes to Pell Grants. My question to you is, do you think a possible solution to the loss of the Pell Grants would be to make enough loan money available that everybody who wants to go to education for whatever purpose can do so? Thank you. Loans versus grants.
Look, I think that's a really tough one to parse. And there are two reasons for that. One is, it's a bit of a myth to think that the loans don't cost the federal government anything. It's a bit of a bookkeeping charade. Some of the loans never get paid back. Some of them are highly subsidized. So it makes it seem like the government's not doing something, but it really is. So I would want to make sure I did it right if I were going to do that. But the second thing is, so exactly how many tens of thousands of dollars do we want these kids to have when they graduate from college? Is that really doing them any favors? I mean, isn't that part of the whole mess with the proprietary schools, that a lot of people got student loans, didn't get jobs, and then after the fact they discovered that if you file for bankruptcy, you can basically wipe out all your credit card bills, but you still owe the student loans? So I think we ought to be careful about that. I think it may be part of the solution, and I think there's lots of creative ways to give people loans that they can pay out of their future earnings, and the people who make more money can pay more than the people who don't, and stuff like that. I think that I find it very appealing, the loans that you get forgived if you work in certain areas of public service where we think we need more people. But I think this is really about the government being forced to make some choices and trying to figure out how to do it. I don't want to condemn the administration without reading the things. I suspect they're cutting the summer grants on Pell Grants in order to increase something else along the way. So it's not simple, but it's not, loans are not always a solution, and it's particularly a problem for people who go to more expensive schools than the ones that most of you are from. Well, I see a woman in the back. I mean, I could really use a telescope. I'm glad you're wearing red because.
Thank you. I just want to follow up. I'm Joy Padgett from Central Ohio Technical College. I really want to follow up on the comments of the last gentleman because I do believe your comments are the finest that I've heard at several of these summits that I've been to. What I want to know is, will they be posted anywhere where we will be able to retrieve those?
No.
No.
Not because I'm apologizing, it's just that I didn't write them down. Because I've been making this speech in some variation for about literally 15 years. But if you look at, I will give the people from the AACC, I spoke at a maybe it was Achieving the Dream, one of their conferences. And without knowing it, they like taped the whole thing and put a transcript up there, including some of the jokes I made about some people who weren't in the room. I don't know if any of you know Norton Grubb, who is an economist who does a lot of work in community colleges, and I have a lot of respect for him, but I kind of made some snide remark about what he was like to work with, and that's all in the that's on the web somewhere. So that has part of my tough love speech. It's just not updated for the 2011 version. Thank you very much.
If someone would just share that information
Sure.
with us.
And maybe someone here taped it and I'll be in trouble in the morning. But thank you very much. I really appreciate your time and good luck today.
And we want to thank David Wessel for taking the time out of his busy schedule to be with us this morning. I think this was an inspiring speech for us and gives us some direction as to what we can do in community colleges. I have a few housekeeping items that I need to share with you. As you leave, please remember to complete the evaluation forms located in your registration packet, or you can pick one up at the registration desk. Your feedback is very important to us so that we can continue to improve upon this meeting. Our next session is the overview of 2011 community college priorities, and it will take place upstairs in the Thurgood Marshall Ballroom. Please help us by clearing the room so that the next session can start on time. This session is now adjourned. Thank you.